Hello. Decided to answer a few of the threads that have been going on. I apologize for not keeping track enough. I study very hard to be an accountant. I'm studying full-time these days. Also, I don't have access to my collection very much. I have records all over the place, but every time I think of a record, it's behind a pile of boxes, or sometimes I don't even know where it is. But I'll try to answer to a few questions. Spellerine's new thread from November 17th. Condition of the records you buy. Depends what it is. If it's a very rare record and it's only $1 because it's in bad shape but I can still listen to it, I might try it as a sampler to know if it's worth investing more money into in a better copy later on. But usually I prefer to I'm trying to cut down on buying crappy condition records. I have too many in my collection. What section of a store do you go to first? Children's records. I'm always on the lookout for rare children's records, especially French-Canadian ones. Any broads in your collections, bad conditions, doubles don't belong. Yeah, especially probably have a little bit too much cheesy stuff and bad condition records. I wish I had the willpower to get rid of records only based on their condition, but it's very hard. Plastic sleeves and paper sleeves or no plastic sleeves. I'm not a fan of plastic sleeves because they're expensive, and I only put my most expensive, most valuable ones in plastics, but usually I don't bother. But I'm always on the lookout for paper protective sleeves. I don't know where you can, or if you can buy these paper ones. I prefer paper because you can write details on them. So when I go, let's say, to a garage sale and I pick up 10 albums, before I pay for them, I check if they have paper sleeves. If they don't, I go back in the box and select some, pull out the paper sleeves and put it in the records I pick. It's not stealing. If you pick 10 albums and you have 10 paper sleeves, it's not stealing. Next. Mr. Hall of Fame's next music thread 2 from November 17th. Name something or event that you would change in rock and roll history apart from John Lennon's and Buddy Holly's death. That's very easy, a no-brainer for me. I would go back, set up a microphone or two, whatever. Let's say 2 microphones at least to record in stereo with a proper reel-to-reel. I would set it up in Elvis Presley's home the day the Beatles visited him and record their jamming session. Shame on them for not thinking of recording that. It blows my mind when I think about it. Rock taboo that you have. Well, aside from the obvious, I could start naming bands that are not my cup of tea, because there's a big, large chunks of popular music that I'm not a fan of. Metal, heavy metal, hard rock. But to be more specific, let's say I like Pink Floyd's early albums. I love Dark Side of the Moon. Well, I don't like The Wall. It's too dark. It's too depressing. I hate it. I sort of like Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, but I disagree with some of the lyrics, because I do believe children need education. They do not need thought control, though. I agree with that. What 2 artists would you introduce to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Well, I'll skip that one. I don't even care about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. All you guys with your replies convinced me that the Hall of Shame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Shame, is a big joke. Share one of the most moving moments. I'll skip that one, because aside from naming songs that made me cry, it's too personal and boring. 25th record in your rock collection. I'm going to skip that one too, because I do not have a rock section. I have different categories, but not a specific rock section. So I have Harry Belafonte and the Beatles and Pink Floyd all in the same section. So then we're going to Joseph O'Donnell's music from November 19th. Most overrated band. I could not think of one, sorry. Most underrated band, my favorite band, Sparks. Most of you know them for Beat the Clock, and maybe also for their 1974 hit This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us, which got which almost made it to #1, but because of a technicality that prevented them from going on TV the week they were supposed to, they were replaced by the Rubettes with Sugar Baby Love, which went straight to #1, and this town was unable to bump it down, so they only reached #2. But Sparks is bent to discover. It's an acquired taste. They touched all kinds of styles of music over the years. They're still making records. It's two brothers, two geniuses, Ron and Russell Mayo. Ron Mayo is the coolest human being in the universe. I love that guy. The writing, he writes his own songs and he's incredible. How do you keep track of your music collection? Well, my records are in alphabetical order by sections, different sections: French, disco, English, Anglophone, non-disco. Then I have soundtrack and jazz, children's records, and other styles that. And in my computer, I do not have a database. It would be too long to enter everything. But all my new purchases are written in text files. One per date. So if I go on a Saturday on a garage selling session, I would write all the addresses, the prices I paid, and all the details like that. But I do not have a proper database for my collection. It would just take forever. I have about 20,000 records, so no, I'm not going to sit down for weeks and enter everything. Has your music taste changed since being on YouTube? No. Do you have any record pet peeves? Yes. I do not. I really hate when people don't know how to take a record out of a record sleeve. This is how I take a record out of a record sleeve. I put it against my chest like this. See? Pull it out. Put it back in like this. Whoops, sorry, like this. Easy as pie. People don't know how to take records out of a record sleeve. They put it down and they go like this. And then with the other finger they take the record out. They make all these little folds. I hate that. Next, let's put this back. That was pet peeve. Can you remember your first ever proper record? I have several firsts. So the first record I ever owned was probably when I was 4 years old in 1972. I found a cardboard record in a box of honeycomb cereal with Bobby Sherman and Anne Renee on it, and it didn't last long. I was mesmerized with this piece of cardboard that would play on the record player, and I was annoyed it was square and records are supposed to be round, so I took a pair of scissors. I was 4 years old and I cut the corners, but I cut into the first groove and the first song was unplayable. The hole got wider and wider until it got stuck on the spindle of the record changer and didn't last long. I found since then a whole stack of them in the yard sale, and I'm unable to remember which one was it that I had. They had different songs, and that's the proper. But the first record I ever bought with my own money was in 1976 or 77 with my own pocket money. It was Fighting on the Side of Love by THP Orchestra featuring Wayne St. John. I think it's a Canadian disco record. Have you ever thought, I need to cut down? No. But I do need to trim down my collection though. Purge it from some unnecessary stuff. One day later. Have you ever bought an album in double by accident? Yes, this year in the same day. I saw it in the morning, thought I left it there, saw it again at another yard sale, decided to take it, thinking that I did not buy the copy I saw earlier. When I got home I realized I had bought both of them. Getting old, I guess. Most recent album you've bought. I'm not sure if you mean the youngest album, in terms of like when was it made, or what's the last thing I bought. The most recent album I ever bought was probably the Anthology 3 by the Beatles on vinyl, and the last records I bought was last Saturday. I bought 3 records at a used record store, the only one in Laval, called L'Indicatif. I don't go too often because the rotation is not fast enough for me. I bought 2 rare Claude François albums in bad shape, but the covers are really cool looking, and instead of $1, it would have been over $10 had they've been in better shape. This one, purple. This one, and I also bought this Beatle album for $1. The record has a little bit of damage on it, but the reason I bought it anyways is because I have 2 copies, and this cover is in better shape than both of my record covers, so that's why I bought it, despite the condition of the record. And the first record in my collection, since my collection starts with the French section, it would have to be this one, Adamo, Sans Toi Mamie. So that's my first record in terms of the first row will always be Adamo. That will never change. It's always French, then English, then the rest of my stuff. Thanks for watching.